Welcome, guys, to this interesting paper. And if you are in the field of information systems or doing information systems PhD, this is a very interesting paper to read. So this paper will help you understand how the entire field was formed and what happened in the past. Because back then, the field felt very fraudulent because there was really no cumulative uh, way of doing things, and the dependent variable was fuzzy, and there was no reference discipline. So it was hard for anybody to take information systems serious. And then in 1980, Peter G.W. Keane, back then from the MIT Sloan, said, if you guys continue this way, this field is going to be absorbed by probably computer science, economics, or other specialized field. You guys really need to put in your A game to make things clear. So he actually provided a very clear manifesto, and I see this paper as a manifesto. So Keane is stepping back and asking a very uncomfortable question, which is management information, is it actually a discipline or is it just a loose collection of topics? And if MIS wants to survive inside universities and business schools, Keane argues that it must be intentionally built, not left to evolve by accident. So this field of us, information system, I think is a very great one. I was talking to a colleague the other time, and I'm like, if your goal is to demonstrate that implementing a system changes human behavior, computer science cannot answer that question. MIS is the only subject topic that can answer that question because this is a social technical area. So we try to understand the relationship between humans and technology and the impact of technology on humans. And for me, what I understand, the real dependent variable is not how user satisfaction or how much the user likes the system or how many clicks the a website gets. The real dependent variable is and should be organizational performance. At the end of the day, if the organization is not performing well, then there's a big issue. So what we are trying to gauge is organizational performance. Does this technology lead to better performance in the organization? So going to slide 2, let's get this conversation rolling and get this man out of the space. So Keane begins by diagnosing what he sees as an identity crisis. In 1980, MIS did not have a clear intellectual core. Researchers studied decision supports, uh, implementation, database, user behavior, technology trend. But the problem was that these topics did not clearly connect to each other. Were just units, just different topics scattered here and there. And as a result, MIS looked less like a discipline and more like a borrowed team that borrowed ideas from other discipline. So we people didn't actually think we were serious. So King then said, there's a huge problem, and this is dangerous. Without a clear identity, MIS risks being absorbed into stronger older disciplines like economics, psychology, operation research, and computer science. So we needed a team. We needed a clear understanding of what we are doing, and not really studying individual things like database, technology trend, user behavior. And without a clear identity, MIS will disappear, like I said. So in short, MIS might disappear. That's what he's saying. Because it lacks relevance. But not because it lacks relevance, but mostly because it's not coherent. It wasn't coherent enough. And so now what happened is that, so to explain why MIS was struggling back in the days, Keane proposed 6 foundational questions that any legitimate academic discipline must answer. So these are the 6 practical foundational questions. Let me get this man off the way. And the first thing is, what are our reference discipline? Meaning, which established field did standard or rigor come from? Like which established field define our standard or rigor? If we are trying to be an established field, we also have to have a reference discipline that we draw from, right? So we that is a huge question. Then number two is, what is our dependent variable? Like I said earlier, improve organizational performance is the dependent variable we are trying to study. What core phenomenon we are actually trying to explain? Are we trying to explain or improve? What is our dependent variable? That was the second question. And the third question was, how do we develop a cumulative tradition? So knowledge builds over time instead of in fragments. Then the fourth question he asks is, what is the relationship to technology? Are we about computers themselves or their use in organization? Most people struggle with this. MIS is not computer science. MIS is not computer science. Computer science and MIS is different. Then the fifth one, what is the relationship to practice? Given that MIS is in business school, this I think most scholars still find this difficult to answer this question. No, MIS is mostly in business schools, and I think that our research is supposed to be used in practice. So most scholars find it hard to problematize. So we have to learn how to problematize and solve practical business problem. Until we bridge that gap, because we are supposed to be like an incubation hub for the business world. And I think the problem I see is that most researchers, most scholars have zero business experience. And they get into the PhD program with zero prior business experience and they have never worked in any organization. So they are not getting the idea why research is supposed to be relevant in business. So this is just my own 2 cents. If more people in the business environment take up or study do an MIS PhD program, I think probably things might have a better tone because most people who get into the program have zero business experience, and because they don't have a business experience, they don't even understand what the problem the field is trying to solve, and for them it's all about just getting a PhD. And once they get a PhD, the cycle continues. They get into a school, they become a professor, and they still don't understand the goal of MIS, which is solving practical problem for the business. Well, this is my 2 cents. And the sixth one is, where should MIS scholars publish? So research accumulates rather than disperse. So we need to have basket of journals that we are known to publish, which I think we've gotten that right so far. We have MSR Quarterly, we have ISR, we have Information Systems Journal, we have a lot of the basket. Now we even have decision support system, so we have to know the journals that we publish, so we don't publish everywhere. So we actually understand what the field is all about and what counts as success in the field. So going to number four. Let me get this man right here. To number four, Keen then explains what happens when a field lacks clear answers to these questions. Now, researchers borrow theories from many disciplines, but without a deep grounding in any one of them. So, studies use weak proxy measures such as user satisfaction instead of clearly defining the outcome. You know, Scholars move quickly from one topic to the next, often chasing new technologies, as opposed to building on prior work. I see this often, with agentic AI, every scholar wants to, cash in and talk about agentic AI and talk about new technology. Some even MIS scholars are trying to talk about robotics, and there's really no prior work connecting to that. So, but although I still have my reservation that we should move fast and break things. Yes, we should move in as much as we are meant to develop on prior work. But I think we shouldn't get too stuck. This is my own input. We shouldn't get too stuck in think building on prior work because sometimes we can get slow. You know, right now we're seeing a lot of technologies out there. We're seeing the Ray-Ban Meta augmented glasses. We are seeing the quantum technology out. We are seeing robotics is everywhere right now. People believe that the robotics will be a thing in the organization. We are seeing generative AI. We're seeing agentic AI. So let's not to get too stuck on building on what's already there and move fast and break things because we these social technical areas I think really call for human attention and we are supposed to study the effect of this technology. So I think we should try and speed things up a little bit and have a very clear direction on how this can be done so everything doesn't look disjointed and fragmented. So I think there is still a lot of questions and debate to be had in the field. And again, the publishing time, technology moves so fast, and to get something published usually takes tons and tons and tons, sometimes even over a year. And I think it's a huge problem because I believe we should increase the pace of how we study new technology. And most journals are taking a very conservative approach to just stay in the whole cumulative sense. But I think we should look into this too. And so again, the problem he was saying journals lack clear identity, making it difficult to evaluate what counts as a contribution. So this results to fragmentation and loss of interesting paper, but very little that adds to a shared body of knowledge. So the manifesto. So importantly, King does not write this paper to complain. This is not about a complaint. He writes it to propose a solution. He argues that MIS can become a real discipline, but only if deliberately constructed around three foundations. So, which are reference discipline, a clear dependent variable, and a cumulative tradition. Keane emphasizes that these elements reinforce each other, like, like this, like I said, reference discipline, clear dependent variable, and a cumulative tradition. I say this because I want it to stick to my head because I'm actually preparing for my comms, so I need to understand this. In like Keane emphasizes these elements reinforce each other. You cannot build on one without the other. Like I said, I am doing this PhD because really I'm very interested in business. I'm really interested in solving business problems, not to understand concepts or not to just not to research for researching sake. I'm really interested in understanding business and business problems. So understanding this concept in a very practical way is very important to me because there is so many research out there that is not connected or doesn't help the business environment in any way. So understanding this and seeing putting things together to understand how I can use it to help solve business problem is very important. So here, um, reference disciplines is explained. Here I want to explain. So Keen begins with reference discipline. A reference discipline is not simply a source of an idea. Like it is a field that provides standards for theories, method, evidence, and explanation. For example, MIS research that MI, if for example if MIS research studies something like cognition, then cognition psychology should give how experiments are designed and im- interpret- interpreted. Without reference discipline, MIS risks becoming shallow, producing work that look scientific without depth. Reference discipline act as quality control mechanism. So reference discipline, like I said, provides quality control. So if a piece of MIS research is poor, judged in terms of its RD, then it is poor. So reference discipline improves research. It prevents confusion. So you can see if you read this slide, I kind of like have a few points you need to understand. So studying and reference discipline like e.g. experimental psychology or cognitive style reviews methodological standards and clarify strategy. So we need to actually have the reference discipline. We need what discipline are we referencing. We in MIS today we use tons of theories from economics, and we borrow these theories from these disciplines because we really can depend on MIS scholars for all the theories. So having these reference disciplines are key, and which I think adds more depth to the field. So we as a field we borrow a lot. We borrow from a lot of a lot of disciplines. So you should know that. So that is one of the ways and how we keep the field alive. So so is Keane is especially critical of what he sees as the overproduction of framework in IS. Many frameworks consist of boxes and arrows that label variable but do not explain the underlying mechanism. These frameworks are often used to publish but hard to test and impossible to build on. So Keane argues that strong reference discipline reduces this problem. And when researchers are grounded in established theory, these are less likely to invent superficial models. They are less likely to invest superficial models and are more likely to contribute to cumulative knowledge. I don't know if you understand it, what I'm trying to say. Like the problem is that MIS framework look like dicks. You know, the boxes are arbitrary and arrows largely are theoretical, not based on any theoretical. So by calling them a contingency theory, one makes them untestable. You just don't come out come up with things, right? So the solution is a coherent reference discipline. Provide axiom, definitions, and method needed to build the theories that are testable and connected to truly collected and truly explanatory. So we use reference theories and we build up concepts, we build up models from these theories. Pillar 2, the missing dependent variable. This is a huge pillar. King's second major concern is the lack of clear dependent variable in the field. So MIS researchers often study information systems without agreeing on what success or effectiveness actually mean. I see this problem a lot these days. As a result, they rely on what Keane called surrogate measures like system usage or user satisfaction. And Keane warns that these measures can be misleading. High usage does not necessarily mean high value. Satisfaction does not necessarily mean effectiveness. Without a clear dependent variable, the field cannot accumulate knowledge. Like I said, the real dependent variable is organizational performance, right? Okay, now if you're studying user satisfaction and the system is sending the user bad data, but the user is satisfied with the data, there's a problem because at the end go, the organizational performance will be low, although the user is satisfied, but the organizational performance is low. If you're studying clicks on the website, but that doesn't improve the organizational performance in any way. So having a clear dependent variable is key. So you see, MIS has no theoretical base. The problem having no theoretical base, and so I think a lot of, a lot of, a lot of discussion. We still need to have a lot of discussion on what our dependent variable is, because I see some people making that mistakes. We still really need to have a lot of discussion about what the dependent variable is that you are trying to study, and stop studying things that have no input in the field. Yeah. So this slide, building a cumulative tradition. King proposed anchoring MIS research around a simple but powerful idea: effectiveness. Like effectiveness. The He defines MIS as a study of effective design. Wait, give me a second. So let me go back to the building a cumulative tradition. So a discipline only exists. Um, s- so talking about the slide on effectiveness. So here, I would say King's second major criticism was MIS. He argues that the lack of theoretical base because it lacks agreement on what it is trying to explain. And instead of studying information systems directly, researchers relied on surrogates like user satisfaction or system usage. And here, proposes reinforcing the field on effectiveness of design, delivery, and the use of information systems. So this shifts attention from technology as an end dependent variable to organizational performance as a value as the outcome. So we are not studying technology as per se. We are studying more like how does this technology increase organizational performance. So I want you to understand this. So now going on the ninth slide, King talked about why we should build a cumulative tradition. A discipline only exists if it accumulates. King defines a cumulative tradition as one where you think researchers build on each other's work, shared definition, and stay with the core problem long enough for understanding to deepen in that field. So MIS struggled then because technology kept changing. Incentive rewards novelty, and senior scholar often exited the field. So without continuity, even good research becomes intellectually dead or becomes a dead end. So from this slide, from theory to action. Now, Keane here emphasized that a manifesto is meaningless unless it can be put into practice. So he points to the work by MIT Center of Information Systems Research as an attempt to operationalize this idea. And the key question is that CISR act was simple. Are we just funding interesting projects or are we building on coherent concept of MRS? Uh, wait, I think I let me check if I have their website open. Their website should be MIT Center. Let's check it out, guys. It will be fun to check it out. Mhm. Okay, this is their website. So I'm not gonna bore you with the details. I'm gonna check it out and see what has been done over the years. So going to slide 11. So a practical definition of MRS. So see, so the website that we just visited answers answer was to actually adopt a very precise definition of MIS: the effective design, delivery, and use of information systems in an organization. So this is the practical definition of MIS. So so going back, going back. So you see, every word matters. Effective forces attention on the outcome and measurement, right? In the organization or in organizations, anchors the field in managerial and organizational problem, not pure technology. So you are looking at, you know, if you check the effective design, delivery, and use of information systems. Now, the effective design, you can see the word forces attention on the outcome and measurement. And organizations there anchors the field in managerial and organizational problem, not just pure technology. And this definition was designed to support cumulative research, not just description. If you understand what this whole sentence meant, the effective design and delivery of use of information systems in an organization. So you're seeing the organization as a phrase, establish the context and points to reference discipline that deals with organizational and managerial issues, distinguish, distinguishing MIS from pure computer science. The effective forces attention to the dependent variable and its measurement, connecting to disciplines like economics and organizational theory. So I think there's a lot of sense making around what MIS is all about. And when you get the aha moment, that's only when you understand what you're actually studying. Now, on this slide, visualizing a coherent research portfolio. Now, using this definition, CISR was able to organize research into a coherent portfolio. So instead of disconnected studies, projects were mapped across policy, planning, delivery, and across strategic and tactical level. So the result was not just a better research, but research that fits together. So the an enduring blueprint for any applied discipline. So Keane closes by making the argument broader than MRS. Any applied discipline, especially those at the intersection of technology and human behavior, which is MIS, socio-technical discipline, faces the same challenges. To survive, a field must answer three questions: what anchors us? What is our core question? What do we build together? So we have to answer this question. What do we build together? What is our core questions and what anchors us? So 14. So the closing side. Finally, King reminds us that a mature field requires more than just publication. It requires reflection, history, philosophy, and curiosity about its foundation. He argues that the discipline must think about research, not just do it. And the final message may be the most enduring contribution, actually. So, King's paper explains not just how MIS was built, but why information systems must constantly define intellectual core. So, let's just have a quick chat to wrap this up, in as much as the video is getting longer than I expected. But if you look at the this paper, I think the core problem of this paper still exists in the field, and we as a field have not actually tackled this problem. Because his central concern was if a field does not clearly define what it studies, how it studies it, and how knowledge accumulates, it will fragment and be absorbed by stronger disciplines. And the problem has not yet gone away. In fact, some of these problems have intensified. And why is it even more relevant today? Like again, I'm not making any suggestion. I'm just probably talking to myself and just trying to just make sense of everything that King said. And I'm not saying that King was 100% right, or maybe we should have a consensus on how to do things differently. Now, IS faces the same identity pressure. We just have new names now. In back then in 1980, MIS risks being absorbed by economics, psychology, operational research, and computer science. Today, IS faces pressure from data science, AI, machine learning, information science, uh, HCI, computational social science, strategy and marketing analytics, and the question King raises still applies. What makes IS research distinctly IS and not just applied work from other field, right? So now, framework glorifications, and you can see it's getting worse, not better. King criticized shallow box to arrow framework, weak theoretical grounding, little cumulative build-ups. And today, we are seeing conceptual framework multiply rapidly. New digital phenomenon encourage novelty over depth, and journals are flooded with new models that really connect. And keen warning is sharper now. Without strong reference discipline, novelty becomes noise. And the issue that I keep saying, the dependent variable problem, is still yet unresolved. I see IS is struggling with defining value, impact, defining effectiveness, and digital systems. Even today, we heavily rely on user metrics, satisfaction, perception, adoption intention, exactly the surrogate Skin warned about. In his insistence on anchoring research on organizational effectiveness remains like a corrective lens that I think we should check. Is we like nobody cares about the user metrics perception adoption. Does it make the organization effective? That is what we are supposed to be studying. Then the cumulative tradition is harder in fast moving digital context. Like I said this, like we can build on cumulative tradition when these technologies are moving very fast. Technology now changes very fast. This makes it even harder to stay on the research stream, build theory over time. There's so many things that needs to be studied that we don't even have the theory to study them. You know, accumulate shared knowledge, keen cause to stay on the core problems. Build communities around things, resist chasing every new technologies. But again, yeah, it's just a two-way street. Then publishing politics still shapes the field. Keen openly discusses journal prestige, tenure incentive, evaluation criteria imported from other disciplines. This politics still dominates the academic life right now. So the field still struggles with what counts as top tier IS research, methodological gatekeeping, tension between relevance and rigor. Keen wasn't just theorizing, he was just diagnosing the academic system, and he's still existing. So this paper matters specifically for you, to understand what is in the field and what you can do better. And this paper is still very relevant in information systems and continues to fight the same battle it faced 1980, and how to remain a coherent discipline in a world of rapidly changing technology. So I see this problem still persist, and I hope we have another new Keen, talking about these things.